Hey guys, welcome back to Take a Leap. I'm James, and today I'm joined by Aaliyah Ebert.
Hey everyone.
Heidi Hansen.
Hello.
And Ocean Marshall.
Hi guys.
For the first time, Ocean, how are you doing?
I'm so great.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm going to be a freshman in the fall, and I'm studying statistics.
Awesome.
Ooh.
Well, welcome to the team. We're glad to have you here, and we're glad to be discussing another one of our episodes from November 1st, 2024 with Sarah Suncanel and Tala Alnasser, who at the time were the president of the student body and the executive vice president at BYU. Heidi, what are your thoughts? Initial reactions. Why is this episode worth revisiting, worth listening to if you haven't listened to it before?
What stood out to me the most of the episode, what I remember, is the focus on leadership roles and how they shared, the women who have made a difference in their life and just people who they've looked up to, and how important those roles are for you in your life, the people around you. It got me thinking about people who I look up to and who I want to be like and what I want to do with my life. I don't know. It was kind of an episode that got me deep thinking a little bit. Just how my parents and my grandparents have influenced my life, looking at their lives and the things that they've told me about their choices and the decisions that they've made, how that's affected what I've done, and I didn't even realize it.
I think that was definitely one of the things that stood out in the episode were the grandma stories, the fun kind of epic grandma stories, but grandmas. We wouldn't be here without them, would we?
No, indeed.
We were not.
No, indeed.
Quite literally. I think about my grandma because, she's from Korea. The Korean War happened while she was a young teenager. And so she was a refugee and all these things that happened that were really difficult for her. But then for her to come to the United States and ultimately to be really successful as a businesswoman, that's an inspiring story to me to think about. And I don't think I entirely appreciate, my grandma, what she's been through in her life and the sacrifices that she's had to make and her experience, because it doesn't seem real, this idea that you could lose everything and have to, go to another country. Anybody else have a grandma story?
I've got a number of stories from my grandparents. I don't remember how many generations back this is, but one of my sets of grandparents who lived in Germany, they converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they were running a successful business up there, and then when they got baptized, the whole city was like, we hate you now. And so they stopped making money and essentially got kicked out of their hometown. Wow. But them kind of forging a path religiously and also just by moving across the country kind of set up the next generations for their kinds of success, leading all the way down to me. And then, what do you call a grandparent? In-laws.
I don't actually know.
Grandma-in-law? I don't know. Anyways, my husband's grandparents were from Vietnam and were refugees. And as they were leaving the country, they literally got attacked by pirates. Literally.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, it was intense. But they made it to the States and raised my mother-in-law here in the States and set up their generations for success. Yeah, lots of people forging paths so that they could find future success and also set up the next generations.
Any other grandma stories?
My grandma's pretty cool. My grandma and my grandpa, when they were really young, they got married 18 and had to start having kids. And they built up a business from scratch. And my grandpa was going to dental school and my grandma was trying to help build the practice. And they still have the practice today. And everybody in our family works there, so it's super cool.
Nice.
That's sick.
Yeah.
There's one, I don't remember how far back. It's great-great-great-grandma, maybe? But, yeah, and grandpa. He was Irish, and he was in the Queen's Army, and he got sent to India, and he met that grandma, and he was I'm a member of this church, and she's oh, I like that too. And then she got baptized, and her family hated him. Oh, no. And we're we're not doing that. And then they started having kids, and the kids started dying because it was in India, and it was malaria and stuff. So they're we're gonna go to Utah. She came over with the Willie Handcart Company and got stuck in the
On
snow.
her own.
And he had to come save her.
Oh.
And it was just interesting story to me because, like, I haven't faced any kind of persecution in that way. And in that drastically, and having to leave, just like you said, Aaliyah, just like everyone's just, or just being, young and having to start something completely different. It's just inspiring.
They are built different, and they sacrificed a lot so that we could live our very cushy lives here.
Yeah.
Which involves going to college. Look at all of us at Brigham Young University, which is something that Tala and Sarah talk about, is their decision to attend BYU. Of course, Sarah is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but Tala is not. And so they both kind of talk about their experience in choosing to attend BYU. Do any of you guys have any interesting stories about choosing to attend BYU?
I got nothing.
You got nothing? Was it straightforward for you guys? Was it pretty straightforward?
I was like,
I'm
well,
going to go to BYU?
I want to go to BYU, and I guess I'll apply to a couple other schools just in case. But as soon as I got the acceptance letter, I was like, all right, I'm going to BYU.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's very simple.
Yeah, from like when I was really, really little, I had always come to the football game, so I was like, I'm going to BYU. And I was kind of really nervous when I like put in to like go here, but I didn't put in for any other schools. I was like, BYU or bust. Like
That's what my mom did. She just applied to the one.
Good for you, Ocean.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it worked out. Look at you. You're here now.
Exactly.
Yeah. For me, I did not want to go to BYU, like for no particular reason. I was just like, that's so cliche. So I just applied to UNLV because that's where my dad went. And I got into UNLV and they're like, gave me money because they're like, stay in Nevada. But then we moved to Nebraska, like halfway through my senior year.
Oh,
and I was like, well, my family's not there anymore. And so it was UNLV and then BYU just because my cousins, a lot of my cousins are here. And then UNLV was just like taken away. I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to go here. And now I'm here and it's been pretty good. And I no longer have any biases against it.
I also didn't want to go to BYU because I don't really know why I didn't want to go to BYU. For me, BYU was like a backup school that I only applied to because I was like, it is cheap and it is like a decent option. Like if like everything else fails. This sounds really, really condescending to BYU. But I got into other schools. I got into the University of Virginia, which is a good school, and that's where I thought I was going to go. And so I was like dead set on going to UVA. We visited UVA. It was great. And then all of a sudden I was like, actually, I'm going to go to BYU. My mom is very big on like, if you are going to make a big decision in your life, you need to have a scripture to back up that decision. Like when you need to pray about it, and you need to get a scripture because that's how revelation works for her. I'm not going to say that's how revelation works for everybody, but I have found that it can work that way for me sometimes. And so I prayed and I was like, okay. And what came into my mind here, I'm going to get the specific scripture reference. It's D&C like 58:26, which reads, "For behold, it is not meet that I should command in all things, for he that is compelled in all things, the same is a slothful and not a wise servant, wherefore he receiveth no reward." And so that's not the kind of answer you're looking for.
I love that.
And so like I was sitting there, because it was like D and C in my head, and I think I was biased towards Doctrine and Covenants because I'm like, maybe it's going to be like, oh, calling missionaries, like go east or go like some general cardinal direction where I could be like, oh, UVA is south and Boston College is north and Utah is west. No. I got called lazy. And I went to BYU. So that's my story.
That's amazing.
That's funny.
I love that.
We'll kick it over to Josh and Leah for Tala and Sarah.
Hey guys, it's Leah with Take a Leap, and I'm here with
Kate.
Kate. Who would you say your role model is?
I'd probably say my mom, honestly. Yeah.
I would say my mom because she was just super hardworking.
My dad, he's just hardworking. Just been a big, important influence in my life.
My role model is my mom. She's very nice to people.
My biggest role model is probably my parents, both my mom and my dad.
I would have to say my dad also.
I would say my mom. She has taught me a lot of things, and that's her.
I kind of like Jesus. He's pretty great. What makes him great in your eyes? I agree too. Just by the way, but what do you think?
Disclaimer. He kind of gave everything for me. He kind of does everything for me and loves me despite what I do.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, bro.
Awesome. Welcome back to Take a Leap. I'm Josh Orton. Super excited to be here with Sarah Suncanel and Tala Alnasser. Sarah Suncanel is the student body president of BYU and was the first Asian American to be crowned Miss Utah in 2023. She was the first person in her family to join the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at the age of 17. Sarah is an accomplished musician and plays more than 10 instruments. She's studying strategic management here at BYU.
Tala Alnasser is the student body executive vice president of BYU and the first Muslim in BYU student body leadership. She was born in Jordan, speaks 3 languages, and is writing an honors thesis on the Christian gaze. She went undefeated in the chess Olympiad for Jordan and is studying public relations and French. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh, we're so excited.
Okay, first off, I want to know the 10 instruments that you play, because that's crazy.
Oh, man. Okay, well, there's the piano.
Okay,
that's
classic.
like my bread and butter.
Nice.
Then viola, violin, cello, trombone, euphonium, glockenspiel, guitar,
Bless you.
ukulele, and the flute.
That's crazy.
Wow.
How did you get into that?
Well,
how did you discover, okay, I'm going to play 10 instruments?
Well, here's the thing. Both my parents are professional musicians.
Oh, okay.
So music has just been all around me growing up. And then when I was younger, every year I was in either band or orchestra. And every year I would stick with that instrument until I was first chair, and then I'd switch.
Okay, that's awesome.
So you were a band kid.
Yeah, big
Don't
kid.
say that.
I love band kids.
Yeah,
no, seriously. I'm
and-
not kidding. I love them.
You know, shout out to the Cedar Middle School band program. Alan Lee, you're the GOAT.
Shout out to Alan Lee, for real.
Yeah, you know,
That's so cool.
because of Alan Lee, you know, I am proud to be a band kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
something
own
to
it.
be
Okay,
proud of.
I retract my initial disdain for the appellation, but
What do you mean is the real... Yeah. No, it's a compliment. I love band kids.
thanks. But can we also acknowledge that Tala is a national chess
Yeah,
Olympiad
okay,
winner?
yeah,
Like,
for real.
is that not
Absolutely.
the coolest thing ever?
Yeah, tell us about that, Tala.
So I played for my country's chess Olympic team for 2 years, and both of them were online because it was like during COVID and stuff. And so the first year I qualified them to the semis, and then the second year I went undefeated. And that was fun. I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I would play for 3 to 4 hours and then go to school. It was my senior year of high school. And yeah, I think that's the best I've ever played. I don't know what got into my head. Probably hysteria, honestly. But it worked, and we did it, and it was really fun. And I love chess. Any country that I go to, any city that I visit, I always play it with the locals because I think it's a great way to connect with people.
Yeah, that's
And
so
she always
sick.
beats them.
I do want to know a little bit about why both of you decided to come to BYU in the first place. And then later we can talk about why you decided to get involved in leadership. But why BYU?
For me, I think it came down to a few things. I had like a personal connection with BYU because my dad in 2006 did this exchange program with the law school. They get 2 judges from Jordan each year to get a master's of law. And so my dad was the first one, so he was kind of like the guinea pig.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time, that was my first connection to BYU. But for me personally, why I decided to come here was for a couple different things. The first one being, I think BYU had the best value for its academics. BYU has really, really strong academics. Their faculty are insane.
Amazing.
Like a lot of them are graduates from like top schools, and I've had a wonderful experience with I think every faculty I've interacted with, honestly. So there was that. And then the other component of it was I was really interested in this faith-based approach to education. I think it's unprecedented in the Western world. And the last time I'd heard of something like that was when I learned about the Islamic Golden Age, where they didn't really have the separation of like secular versus sacred education. It was just kind of like all in one. When you learn about science, you learn it like as science, but you also learn how it applies in the Quran. And I think that's what allowed them to progress so rapidly and contribute so much to society. And so I was just curious to see how efficient this approach would be. And I think the best way to like measure its efficacies to try it out. So I jokingly say that my experience here is just like a case study to see. But so that's what brought me here, and I'm happy to be here.
I love that. We're so lucky to have you here. Truly, truly. I, as somebody who works closely with Tala, I just want the audience to know how much of an influence she's had at this university. It's truly incredible to witness. For me, I came to BYU because I really do believe that it is the Lord's school. So I completed my freshman year at Cornell, which was one of my dream schools growing up. I studied applied economics and management, was really involved in student leadership there, had a full scholarship. But then when COVID-19 hit, I served a mission for the church. And I had only been a member for about a year at that time. But being a member of the church and understanding the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ did transform my perspective on the world and myself and my purpose. And as I found joy in serving on my mission, and as I learned how to seek and receive personal revelation, there were a lot of things about a BYU education that I knew were right for me at this stage in my life. I think wanting to become a disciple scholar, to grow spiritually, socially, emotionally, in addition to academically and professionally, is very important to me. And also being close to my family was another big consideration. So altogether, I think there's a very special spirit about BYU. There's a camaraderie and a network that ties people closer together. There are distinguished and bright students in every field and every discipline, not only striving to be excellent in their areas of study, but also excellent disciples. And that inspires me more than I could possibly tell you. I think the value is amazing, but something I think is really special about this is that I think most people are happy. And that's special. Cornell had a very high rate of mental health and attempted suicide.
Yeah.
And I am somebody who personally has also struggled with depression and anxiety. And even though I think people still have challenges of all varieties at this institution, and I'm not saying it's perfect for all students, and there's still work to be done, but by and large, I think people find joy here. And at least I can speak from my own personal experience that being here, I've felt more joy than I ever could have imagined. At BYU, I've really been able to relish in the relationships and experiences that have helped me grow, but also just have helped me find joy and connection.
Yeah, as I walk throughout campus, there's literally everywhere I go, I'm like, oh, I had like a great moment there. Like everywhere, like I've had like joyful moments.
Yeah.
Except for the testing center. But besides that, like, yeah, there have been like great experiences at BYU for me.
Yeah.
And I know there's like negative experiences as well, like you talked about. But yeah.
And that's why the reason why we wanted to be in this role is to help, as many students as we can feel, what we have felt through doing what we can to enact change.
I guess my next question, I think for the listeners, it'd be great if you just gave a little synopsis of your relationship with your faith and how you came to be a person of faith and why you choose to stay in your faith, especially when so many people of our generation are turning away from organized religion. Why do you stay?
I think for me, growing up Muslim, like being Muslim is not just an identity that you hold, it's the lifestyle that you practice.
Yeah, I love that.
And so for me, I mean, I grew up moving around a lot, but mostly in the Middle East. And so I was surrounded by largely like Muslim populations. And a lot of the things like I grew up with, to me, it seemed like it was just like a given, like, I don't know, having a prayer room in the mall or hearing the adhan or whatever it is. And it wasn't until I came here where I actually had to start questioning a lot of the beliefs that I had and just asking myself, like, do I really believe in this?
Right.
And I think part of it was because I went from being part of the majority to the minority, but also because I was put in a position where I'm being asked a lot of these questions and kind of being seen as like an encyclopedia for Islam, which has its own repercussions. But what it taught me is like I really needed to examine what I believed in. And so I think like, you can be born into a religion, but you have to find it for yourself. And that was very much the case for me, where when I came here to Utah, I moved here my sophomore year of high school. I just started asking myself a lot of those questions and looking at the why. And that has allowed me to get a lot closer to my faith. And then being at BYU, because I'm surrounded so much by religious talk, not necessarily like everyone is perfect here or pious or whatever. It was just like because religion was so much in the conversation, it was always at the forefront of my mind. So any classes that I'm taking, I'm always thinking about it. And I think that has allowed me to get a lot closer with my faith.
For me, my faith has been incredibly empowering. And I know that there are a lot of misconceptions about organized religion, especially our religion today. The media portrays our religion as an organization that strives to squash individuality. And yet I have felt empowered more than I ever have to recognize my identity as a daughter of God and to lean in to developing my strengths and talents because I know that they were given to me with a purpose. I think as I've been able to look at my life through the lens of the plan of salvation, I've been able to understand my place in this world in relation to others, my brothers and sisters, and caring for them and loving them and developing my talents and gaining an education just makes me better equipped to serve and to love in ways that I have been served and loved. It becomes a journey of being God's hands in a small way. And I think what's amazing about faith is that anybody can have that empowering experience. Anybody can gain confidence through recognizing who they really are. And it's not an exclusive club. All are invited to come unto Christ. I also want to point out that our church has a history of empowering women. Martha Buchanan, whose statue is now headed to Washington, D.C., she was the first female state senator in the United States. And Brigham Young Academy was a huge proponent of allowing women to receive an education when it was first opened. Utah was one of the first states in the nation to allow women the right to vote. And it was also one of the first states to be anti-slavery. And that was a very radical position to take back in the day. I think the doctrine really does encourage people to see all as we are, which are people who are like unto God. So I wish that were a narrative that were maybe more prevalent in society today. But I think that in aligning myself with the values, I have really been able to feel of how much God loves all of his children.
Yeah, you touched on there's a history of women leadership from Utah specifically, and you guys are two women leaders at one of the most prominent places in Utah at BYU. Do you have women leader role models that you look to and that have inspired you?
My childhood piano teacher was named Dr. Irene Perry Fox. She was a professor at BYU, and she was extremely accomplished, truly one of the world's foremost pianists. But she was also an incredible teacher. And when people came to Dr. Perry Fox, they became excellent because of the standards that she taught us to set for ourselves. Her catchphrase was perfect practice makes perfect playing, and just the way she commands respect. Like, she's a leader in every sense of the word, but she's also very comfortable with her femininity, and she leads in a way that's distinct to her, and she inspires everybody around her. And I think another female role model in my life was the late historian Kate Holbrook Brown. She was actually in my ward as a teenager, but she was such a beautiful influence of somebody who was a disciple scholar. She was brilliant, but she was also so kind, and she showed me what it meant to be a woman of faith in this era of women, and she led in a way that was very authentic to her.
Yeah, there are so many people that come to mind, and a lot of them come from family. I think coming here, especially as like an Arab American to the U.S., you don't really see a ton of people that look like you in positions of power, and so I think I've approached mentorship kind of in a different way. I don't just put someone on a pedestal. I try and take different bits of different people. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, I just want to be the type of person that I needed most growing up. But I do think of a lot of role models from back home. And one particularly that comes to mind is both of my grandmothers. But my mom's one specifically, she's literally one of the only reasons that I'm so strong in my faith. And she'd always taught me to approach the world with like an open mind and with curiosity, and to always ask why. And she had a very humble life, let's just say that. And she passed that onwards, and I've honestly never met someone so generous as her. She's incredible, and she passed away last year, but I try and carry that legacy. So my grandma from my mom's side, I think, taught me the more like emotional, spiritual side of what it means to be a leader. And then I think of my dad's side and my dad's mom. She's a powerhouse. She was the daughter of a diplomat for Jordan, and she also married a diplomat. So my grandpa was a diplomat. And she's a professor, and she's also a writer. And I think her writing captures a lot of like her experiences, because she didn't just suffer like with the masses, because I think there are a lot of tragedies that the Arab community went through, but she didn't just suffer like with the masses. She suffered as an individual, where like in 1 year, my grandpa got kidnapped and her sister got assassinated. Like,
holy,
talk about double homicide,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
For sure.
But she's just like a girl boss. Like, she would tell me stories, and the story of when my grandpa got kidnapped, it was like in Sudan, and it was by some like terrorist organizations. She could see them from across where they lived. She could see like the terrorists, and then my grandpa. She picked up the phone and calls them and starts scolding them about like morals and virtues. And she's like, "You are kidnapping your own people. Are you stupid?" Like, if you really, like, and she just like goes on and on and on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can I get the rights to her story? Honestly.
Probably, honestly. And she's just like this tiny 5'2" lady, but a powerhouse. She thinks that, you know, if she can't park, it's because they made the garage smaller, not because she can't drive. But what I learned from her was to just like almost own that audacity a little bit. And whenever she dreams of something, she just goes and pursues it. And so she has a little bit of like delusional attributes to her, but I think that's what makes her charming. Yeah. And I think, like, ask Sarah, or really anyone who met me, I probably carry a lot of those like delusional tendencies, and I'm just like, yeah, it'll work out. And then it does. And so I look...
If you plan, right?
If you plan right. Yes. Half of it is trusting the process. The other half is you got to work your butt off for it.
Yeah.
But I think my grandma is the reason that I'm so committed to like academia, to becoming a professor, to reading, to continuously educating myself. And she just has this love for life that is so contagious. And I love her for that. And I also hope to carry her legacy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love those.
Yeah, those were awesome examples.
I mean, first off, your grandma kind of sounds like my grandma. We never went through like a kidnapping or anything that drastic. But I do remember one time, me and my brothers were just playing football, and our football like went into the yard of some guys that would always hang out in their garage. And they would just be like drinking and like, you know, whatever. And they got like so mad at us, and they like were berating us for like having our football like land in their yard for some reason.
God forbid kids play with ball, right?
Because why would we do that? And then my grandma, she's also 5'2", and she marches over there and gives them like a good scolding. Like, no, you listen to me. Like, you're ruining your life. They're just kids. And she grew up in like a pretty abusive household, and most of her brothers have died from alcoholism. And so she talked to them about drinking alcohol and all this thing. And I'm like, wow, like she's doing missionary work just ferociously and
in her own way.
In her own way.
She's like 5'2" with, what would you say, 6'4" mentality?
Yeah.
Being 6'4" is a mentality.
That's so funny.
But yeah, I love that. And the women in my life have definitely shown me like how important it is to respect other people, how important it is to have women in leadership, because men are sometimes stupid. But
well, I think part of the conversation with women in leadership is not necessarily that, you know, one gender is better than another, but it's more that, like, I think in leadership we need to have balanced perspectives that can represent all segments of the constituency. So I think, like, you know, any person, whether it's a man or a woman, can demonstrate exemplary character traits that we ought to emulate. And I think I've looked up to a lot of men and women indiscriminately. But as we value the unique perspective and thoughts that they can bring because of their background, all of our communities and organizations are strengthened because of that.
It's not a zero-sum game of where if if women get into positions of leadership, it's at the expense of men losing some.
I think another amazing thing too is that we don't have to be in a particular position to be a leader. Like anybody can be a leader if they choose to amplify the voices that need to be heard. If they choose to really dig deeper into issues that need to be solved and take initiative to solve them, like truly anybody can be a leader just by a matter of choosing right here, right now, to step up to the plate. There are plenty of issues in the world that need to be solved. And I think here at BYU especially, we have people who have such strong desires to do good. So if you're listening right now, I hope that you'll think of some ways where you can be a leader in your community, because I know that we need your voice here on this campus.
Yeah, I love this conversation so much, and we could talk for hours, but I want to know what aspects of your faith kind of made you want to be in this position of leadership that we have discussed. Is there some story or scripture you can point to, or just that you wanted to share your testimony of faith with the people here at BYU?
Well, something that I've been looking into a lot is the Christ-centered leadership model. And I was talking to Dean Peterson, the dean of students. The advice that he gave me was to lead, listen, and love, and how all three of those things tie into each other. And something that I think is important about being a leader is to listen to and love the people that you have been called to serve. I think my faith has influenced my leadership because every day I pray for the gift of discernment to really understand issues from all different angles so we can solve it without kind of making a whole, without like blowing up the issue even more, and doing so in a way where people feel seen and heard. I think that, so in summation, that's how my faith has influenced my leadership.
That was very profound. And my sociology professor, shout out Professor Gibbs, he always says the hardest part is describing the problem. And I think you made that point exactly of before we push for change, what is it that we're wanting to change first? Right. And how can we do it in a way that is going to best contribute to our communities in the future?
I think, on that, I think the work of a student leader today is to lead with light instead of heat.
For me, my faith influences my leadership because I think my faith keeps me steadfast and keeps me grounded. When Sarah reached out to me to run with her, it was during a time where my community was going through a lot of struggles, I want to say. And I think that a lot of Arab students at BYU felt unsupported and unseen and just invisible. And when Sarah reached out to me, I just remember journaling about it and literally crying my eyes out. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I know that I'm put in a position of privilege because, even though there's in certain institutions that may disadvantage me in certain ways, I'm not going to deny the fact that I am privileged to be here, and I wanted to be able to contribute to my community with that. Mm-hmm. And I think my faith has really helped me develop a guiding principles for how I want to lead others. I am comfortable speaking up, and I am comfortable talking about the good things of BYU and the things that we should strive to be better at. And I don't think I did a good job being in this position if I didn't serve the communities that I'm a part of. And obviously that service extends to other communities as well. So I think my faith really grounds me because it just reminds me of what are the important things to me and how can I use that to be a lot more proactive with my time instead of being resentful or just wanting to scream or all the time. Mm-hmm. I hope that answered your question.
It did. It gave me chills also. Same. That was so profound.
There's something wrong with our studio because mics are dropping all over the place. That's crazy. No, honestly, thank you guys so much for coming in and talking to us. I've gotten a lot out of it, and I know the people listening will as well. So thank you so much.
You're both so inspirational and wise, and I feel like I could listen for hours and be like, wow, I'm learning so much in there. I want to be like them when I grow up, But thank you guys so much for coming to talk to us.
We are thankful that Tala and Sarah could take time out of their exhaustively busy schedules to come talk to us on Take a Leap. If you've made it this far to the credits and you don't turn the podcast off before the credits like most normal people, you know what? We're so grateful for you. We're so grateful that you're here with us, listening to the hard work that we do. And you should definitely leave a nice review for us, Text your friends a link to this episode as well. Hop on a landline if you could find a landline. Call your grandma about your distaste for thin crust pizza, and then while you're at it, tell her to listen to our podcast, Take a Leap. Take a Leap is a production of BYU Radio. We'll see you next week. No thanks, I'm from Chicago. Hey, teach. If I leave them on, am I a bad boy?